Hi everyone, we're starting an entirely new chapter which is called Transport in Plants. And this lesson is going to be about why there is a need for transport in plants in the first place, and what are the structures and organs involved in transport within plants. A characteristic feature of all living organisms is that they carry out metabolic activities and chemical reactions within their cells in order to survive. And all organisms, as a result, require certain raw materials to carry out those metabolic activities or those chemical reactions, and as a result of those chemical reactions, also produce waste products along the way. When a living organism is small, let's say it's a unicellular organism, they have a large surface area to volume ratio, which means that they have a small volume and a large surface area that is in contact with their surrounding environment. So they can easily exchange substances within their cells from their external environment. Processes like simple diffusion, osmosis, and facilitated diffusion, basically processes that occur within membrane transport, are enough for these organisms to obtain what they need and also get rid of what they don't want, and so it can help them survive. But this is not true for larger organisms that have a small surface area to volume ratio. Basically, what that means is that their volume increases, whereas their surface area does not increase in the same proportion. And so, diffusion alone cannot provide metabolic raw materials fast enough for these organisms. All organisms that are larger and multicellular in nature therefore require a transport system to carry essential raw materials to and waste products from target cells so that they can carry out their metabolic activities. The most obvious of these multicellular organisms are mammals that are always surrounding us. So, humans, animals, all of these organisms have a built in transport system that includes the heart along with blood vessels. The heart's main job is to pump blood with enough pressure that it reaches all parts of the organism's body. The blood is a transport medium for oxygen and carbon dioxide, and the blood vessels serve as the transport vessel that carry the blood from the heart to the rest of the body. Now, the question arises that what exactly determines the need for a transport system in an organism? Is the surface area to volume ratio enough as a factor? And how do we know, or how does nature figure out that this organism would require something such as a pump in the form of a heart, and this organism will not require one? Basically, a need for a transport system largely depends on a few factors. The first one being the surface area to volume ratio. So, how large the organism is versus how small the organism is. Organisms that are smaller will most likely not need a very complex transport system, but as the organisms grow in size, they tend to require more complex transport mechanisms. Secondly, it's also important to see how physically active the organism is. Organisms that are not very physically active will not really need a very complex or a high intensity kind of a transport mechanism, whereas organisms that are more physically active will end up requiring a more complex transport system, which might include a pump, for example, in the form of a heart. And lastly, the organism's basal metabolic rate also matters, and this can be directly linked to how physically active an organism is. The more physically active an organism, the higher will be its basal metabolic rate, which means at rest how much energy does that organism need. Whereas an organism that is not very physically active and stays very still or does not move very much is likely to have a very low or minimal basal metabolic rate and will not require a very complex transport system. And mammals, therefore, tend to have a more complex transport system that includes the heart and the blood vessels and blood itself, because they're much larger in size and are very physically active. They also possess complex organ systems such as the nervous system that includes the brain, that requires lots of energy to function and stay alive. Plant, in comparison, are relatively much less complex and are not as metabolically active. And so they don't require a very complex transport system. And whereas in mammals, the transport system is designed to carry carbon dioxide and oxygen, plants do not have transport system to transport gases like these. Instead, a plant's transport system is designed to carry raw materials for and then carry products of the process that is known as photosynthesis. Plants are basically considered the primary transducers on Earth that convert the sun's energy in the form of light to a chemical energy that is stored in the bonds in the products that are formed in the process of photosynthesis. The process of photosynthesis requires carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight to make glucose as the primary product and oxygen as a byproduct. The process of photosynthesis is occurring inside the organelle called chloroplast that has the pigment chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a green colored pigment that is responsible for trapping the sunlight's energy. And the plant uses this energy to combine carbon dioxide and water to produce a molecule of glucose. The bonds that form between the atoms of the final product. So, for example, glucose is a C6H12O6 molecule. The bonds that are present between different carbon atoms and hydrogen atoms actually store chemical energy. And this chemical energy has actually come from the energy of the sunlight. So, the plant has now converted the light energy into chemical energy. All plants, regardless of their species, have some common structures and organs within them. These includes the root, which basically help the plant to stay grounded within the soil, the stem, which shoots out of the ground and into the air and helps support the third major organ of the plant, the leaf, which is suspended within the air. Chloroplasts, which are the site of photosynthesis, are mostly found in the leaves, which are a wide and thin structure with a large surface area to volume ratio. This makes it easy for carbon dioxide in the air to simply diffuse inside the leaf via the stomatal opening. But carbon dioxide is just one raw material out of the two that are required for photosynthesis to occur. The second raw material, water, is although found in the surrounding air, but the amount of water in the atmosphere is always fluctuating and not sufficient for the process. In comparison to this, the soil is actually pretty saturated with water, and the amount is almost always consistent, or at least not as fluctuating as it does so within the air. The structure of the plants that are in direct contact with the soil are the roots, whereas the leaves are where the chloroplasts are, and those are actually suspended mid-air via the stem. So photosynthesis is occurring mid-air inside the leaves, where most of the chloroplasts are, whereas its raw material, the water, is located in the soil. So there must be a transport system that allows the water to move from the soil all the way to the leaves. Now this transport system must be such that it connects and runs from the root and moves through the stem and then connects to the leaves, because the transport system has to be a continuous vessel system that is running through the entire plant from the soil all the way to the roots. And the vessel that is responsible for carrying water from the soil to the leaves is called a xylem vessel. And these xylem vessels are running within the root. They are found within the root, they're found within the stem, and they're also found within the leaves. But their arrangement in all three of these structures varies significantly. But it is the same xylem vessels that are running from the root through the stem and into the leaves. Just because their arrangement is different does not mean that they are separate or different xylem vessels. Those xylem vessels are the same xylem vessels that are continuing from the roots to the leaves. Once the water is drawn up from the roots and carbon dioxide diffuses from the environment and reaches the chloroplast rich cells in the presence of sunlight, the plant is now free to photosynthesize and produce a molecule of glucose and oxygen. Just like carbon dioxide, oxygen can easily diffuse out of the leaves through the stomata. The oxygen produced is actually a waste product or byproduct that is produced in excessive amounts that is not needed by the plant. So the plant gets rid of those by letting it diffuse out down the concentration gradient from inside the leaf to the outside environment into the air. Glucose, on the other hand, is considered the primary product of photosynthesis, and this needs to be carried from the chloroplast rich cells to the cells that are very metabolically active or require glucose to actually respire and produce energy. This energy is produced in the form of ATP during the process of respiration. Respiration is essentially the opposite of what photosynthesis is. It takes a molecule of glucose that was produced during photosynthesis and oxidizes it using oxygen to produce energy in the form of ATP and waste products that are carbon dioxide and water. For respiration to occur, oxygen simply diffuses into the cell and carbon dioxide and water simply diffuses out. Similar to how carbon dioxide had diffused in for the process of photosynthesis and oxygen had diffused out. The only difference is that it's the opposite that is happening. During the process of photosynthesis, it's the carbon dioxide that diffuses in and oxygen that diffuses out. But for the process of respiration, it is oxygen that diffuses in and carbon dioxide that diffuses out. Every single living cell is supposed to respire, but the process of respiration happens most vigorously inside cells that are actively dividing by mitosis, because such cells require the most amount of energy. And energy in the form of ATP is produced during the process of respiration. And the process of mitosis occurs most frequently within the roots in the zone of cell division. Now, of course, those cells would require glucose, which is the raw material for respiration, or they might even need glucose to combine it with nitrogen to make an amino acid out of it, or to combine it with a phosphate group to make a nucleic acid out of it, or to even take glucose and then convert it into a storage molecule such as starch within the tubers. But now the only problem is that the glucose that is actually made during the process of photosynthesis is made inside the leaves, whereas these processes might be occurring way further down in the plant. And in such a scenario, there must be a transport vessel that can actually transport glucose from the site where it was synthesized to the site where it's needed. And there is such a vessel, and this vessel is called a phloem vessel, which is different from a xylem vessel. And phloem vessel is responsible for transporting assimilates. Assimilates is just a fancy name for the products that are manufactured or synthesized by the plant to areas where they're actually needed using energy from ATP. But together, these two vessel systems, the xylem and phloem, make the transport system of the plant. And these transport vessels, be it in the root or the stem or the leaves, are always found together. And together, they make up the vascular bundle. So the structure where they're found together is called the vascular bundle. But the arrangement of vascular bundle varies inside a root, a stem, and a leaf. And in order to understand how transport occurs inside a plant, it is important to be familiarized with the arrangement of vascular bundle in all these structures. And it also becomes important to recognize these different structures under a light microscope through the different arrangements of vascular bundle within a leaf, within a stem, and within a root. So, in summary, a plant is a very large organism to meet its requirements simply by getting its raw material by simple diffusion or facilitated diffusion or osmosis alone. And so it does have a transport system in place. But the transport system in place is not responsible for transporting any gases, but instead is responsible for transporting water and mineral ions through the xylem vessel, and then transporting glucose or other assimilates the plant makes to areas where they're needed. And within the next few lessons, we will be diving in more deeply into the process of or mechanism of transport through these different vessels.